Ready to roll your character in Borderlands 3? Here's how you can get prepped right now for 2019's biggest looter shooter. We now know who all 4 Vault Hunters are in Borderlands 3, and we know when the game is out, on the 13th of September. But what if you want to take that extra level of preparation before the game arrives? What if you want to know exactly what your build will be before you've even opened a single chest or grabbed a fresh new gun? Well, Gearbox has kindly shared an online character creator which you can look at using the links in the description below. And in the meantime, we'll explore what this means for all 4 characters and how it'll affect how you play. Because, you know, it never hurts to be prepared. Before we get into looking at Amara, it's worth reiterating how each of the skill trees works. Each character has 3 ultimate moves called action skills, which change based on which skill tree you're using. So even though certain characters excel at specific roles, there's still a degree of flexibility you can experiment with. Amara's Fist of the Elements tree focuses on elemental damage and comes with the action skill Phase Grasp, a crowd control attack that will hold enemies in place. This can be upgraded to do things like affect more enemies and deal damage at the same time. Phase Slam is the action skill that comes with the Close Combat Brawl tree. This can be augmented to add things like corrosive damage or a Confuse debuff that will cause mobs to attack their allies. And finally we've got Phase Cast, part of the Mystical Assault tree. This fires out an astral projection of Amara that damages all enemies in its path. Among other things, this can be tweaked to drain health from your foes, giving it back to you or your allies, or more simply, it can cause your enemies to explode. Nice. Next, we've got Flak, the Beastmaster. This specialist class lets Flak use one of their 3 pets to buff stats and attack enemies. Their skill tree includes variable buffs for each pet, and they also come with a stack of health regen perks, which is always good. Oh, and best of all, they're voiced by legendary YouTuber, actor and guy you always see on Twitter, Seungwon Cho, aka ProZD. Anyway, let's talk about the skills. Fade Away, part of the Stalker skill tree, allows Flak to temporarily become invisible while also moving faster and regenerating health. They can fire 3 shots while cloaked, all of which will be critical hits, and this can be tweaked to do things like increase damage when you focus on the same target. Rack Attack, which is part of the Hunter skill tree, sends forward 2 rack to dive bomb your enemies. This skill has multiple charges and can be upgraded to add health regen, increased rack, and improved cooldown. And finally, the Master skill tree comes with Gamma Burst, an action skill that creates a rift at the target location, teleporting Flak's pet and doing radiation damage to nearby enemies. As a result of this, their pet becomes irradiated, growing in size and dealing bonus radiation damage when it attacks. Gamma Burst can be improved to increase its active duration and regenerate team health. We've talked about Mose before, a veteran former Vladof army soldier who specialises in mechanised combat. She uses her bipedal tank, the Iron Bear, to deal massive range damage, and her skills are focused on ammo regen, splash damage, and shield regen. Mose can only equip 1 action skill at a time, but she has 2 slots, called hardpoints, that allow her to choose which weapons to outfit the Iron Bear with. Let's take a closer look now. The Railgun skill, part of the Shield of Retribution tree, fires electrified, high-velocity projectiles that deal shock damage. This can be upgraded to reduce fuel drain and increase the magazine size. The Bottomless Mags tree comes with a minigun action skill. This rapid-fire weapon is capable of sustained fire, but using it for prolonged periods will make it overheat. With that in mind, the buffs here will let you fire it for longer and add explosive rounds at a lower firing rate. And finally, we've got the V35 grenade launcher, part of the explosive and beautifully named Demolition Woman tree. This can be tweaked to increase reload speed or add a singularity effect, which sucks in enemies. It's also worth remembering that although the V35 fires grenades, it's unaffected by Mose's equipped grenade mod. And finally, we've got the operative Zane, a complex character who can use 2 action skills at once. This semi-retired corporate hitman uses gadgets to gain an advantage, and his action skills reflect that. His hitman tree comes with the SNTNL skill, a drone that flies around and attacks enemies with a machine gun. This can be augmented to add a radiation effect which weakens enemies and buffs Zane, or to add a rocket pod as one of its primary weapons. The undercover tree allows you to use the barrier skill, which blocks incoming projectiles but allows you to shoot through, sure to be an essential team skill. This can be buffed to add health regen, increase damage output, and improve speed when Zane or his allies are near the barrier. And finally, we've got the Trixie Digi-Clone action skill, part of the puntastic doubled agent tree. This simultaneously distracts enemies and dishes out damage. Zane can also switch places with his clone, essentially teleporting him around the map. It can also be augmented to add cool effects like Schadenfreude, which increases Zane's shield whenever his clone takes damage. So there you go, a rapid-fire rundown of the skills and trees in Borderlands 3 that will hopefully make choosing your character a little bit easier. Or much harder if you and your friends all want to play as Flak. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel now for more videos, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when our next Borderlands 3 video lands. Happy specking and good luck.